And then we move to the forwards. Now, obviously, over the history of the 19 and three-quarter seasons of the Belfast Giants, we have been blessed with players who have been remarkably good. We've seen from the debates from the goalkeepers to the D-men how fraught this has been. But now we go into an even greater wealth of talent numerically about how many forwards we've had. Coach, I want to start with you on this one. Who is your right winger?
Before we start on the forwards, is it worth throwing your three forwards out? Because like I feel like I've been done over on the D there, because if I'd gone with Alfie if I'd have been first up with
first choice
and Alfie, then my choice of Sandy would have been maybe slightly varied, because I'd have had a second chance to have a bite at Alfie again. There's so many forwards. If we go for one, we're ruling out another 100.
Okay. So then we'll. I totally agree with that. That's a good way. That's a good. So shall we go with lines? Name us your first line, then, Coach. Whoa! Coach just lit up the screen. Come on, Coach. Give us your first line.
That's his Premier League trophy flashing behind him.
He's moved that trophy as well. Look at that.
I haven't moved anything, boys. I think I'm going to start. Do you know what? I'm going to start with my centre on this, because this is the one that I think this will be the one that'll. This is one of the ones that I know will create debate, and I can probably be coerced into possibly changing. But I was going to leave the other two until we get to that stage. My centre for my top kind of forward line is a guy, and I think it'll surprise you boys in some way. Again, kind of wasn't the biggest points getter in the world, but this guy, possession is 9/10 of the law, and this particular individual in the face-off circle was incredible. His work ethic was right up there with the very best Belfast Giants that I've ever come across in all my years watching the club. He did put up points, but as I say, block shots. His defence, he was the best defensive forward, in my opinion, that the Belfast Giants have had. Happy to have the debate or argument around that. But the guy that's going to centre my top line is Dustin Whitecotton, who...
Good child.
Yeah, who just for me was stellar in that championship winning season as well. Just did all the small things incredibly well, and that kind of top line that he was on was just absolutely top drawer. And I mean, I think Dustin Whitecotton is right up there with the very best that the Belfast Giants have ever had. But I know it's probably the one area that, to Davy's point, there's so many top caliber forwards that have played for the club over the years. I'm sure it'll create a lot of debate, and
who's either side of him then? As Davey said, we're going to go with a line. So who's either side?
Okay. Well, the other two for me are absolute locks, and just absolute locks. Jason Ruff, the best Belfast Giant to ever pull on the jersey, in my opinion, and Theoren Fleury, who was right up there. Obviously came right at the very end of his career, arrived overweight, etc. Still what they have, over 2 points a game. An absolute pleasure to watch that guy throughout the course of the season that he was here. Jason Ruff just did absolutely everything. I mean, the superlatives, toughness, skated incredibly well, was physical, skill right up there to pay the bills. I mean, what a player. For me, the best player to ever pull on the Belfast Giants uniform. So I've got my top line is Ruff, Whitecotton, and Theo Fleury.
Are we? I'll go to Davy. Davy, is Fleury a lock here? Are we going to debate all the way around here, or we're just?
Wow.
Okay.
He's not on
go
my
for it.
He's not on my team.
He's not on your team. Wow, there we go.
Probably just for the longevity issue. that he came in 3 stone overweight. And if you listen to Todd Kelman's one-on-one coming soon, it's absolutely brilliant. Some of the Theo stories, and I lap that sort of stuff up. You know, the very first game that Theo came to Belfast, Ed Courtney comes into the locker room during the first period break and says, "Lads, Tony Hand's a big friend of mine. We're 5 up against him. Take it easy now." Because Ed used to sit in the coach's office, come in, give a bit of a team talk, and go away again. Try and keep that little bit of separation between player and coach. But anyway, so Theo stood up after Ed walked out and went, "Who's Tony Hand?" And they're like, "Right, he's their number 9. He's like the British Gretzky or whatever." He went, "Is that right?" First shift, goes after him, fights at Doya, 4 goals, 3 assists, scores 11. He says, "Let's try and score 100 here, lads. Don't ease up on anybody." And there's stories like that all through the season. He came and he had an edge and he wanted to win, and he did win and we won that championship. Arguably, we should have won more that season. And that goes through a lot of our championship seasons. We should probably have gone on and won more playoffs than we've done. We haven't won any in the last 10 years. I think we've went to 3 or 4 finals. We should have done better in that. In closing, Doug talked about the collective exhale after winning a championship to keep that momentum up to go on and win the playoffs. There's at times I think we should have won playoffs. Theo, for me, doesn't get into my starting 3 because he was only here for 1 season. I don't argue. Dustin White, I'm not going to argue. Jason Ruff's in my 3. Jason Ruff, for me, I've always said it on any podcast and any times we've talked about favourite players, best players. Jason Ruff, for me, is the best guy that's ever put the jersey on. And he is.
If you needed a goal for your life, or you needed somebody to create a goal to save your life, this is what a best starting 6 is all about. Goaltenders save the puck to save your life. You needed somebody to create something out of absolutely nothing, give you that magical moment. Surely Theoren Fleury is an absolute lock, even 3 stone overweight as he was when he first arrived. He still
Good use of his full name there, Coach. Good use of his full name. Most people call him Theo.
It's hard. Look, that's hard to argue with, and we'll probably come back to the argument when we've all put our 3s out there to see if there's consensus. I agree with you on Jason Ruff. I will not have argument. If Simon says Jason Ruff isn't in his 3, I'll be stunned. I think we can all probably agree now before we even go on. Says, is Jason Ruff in your starting 3?
Okay, Ruff's on the side. So
you know, I don't think you're going to get any argument from anybody that's been fortunate enough. I'm not taking anything away from people that have came in the last lot of years. We were lucky that we got to see some of the talent we got to see through the ISL days, even the early days of the IHL, when it wasn't the product it is now. You know, Jason Ruff did it in that first season of the EIHL when it was, quite frankly, a really, really poor product. And you've people like Todd Kelman says, Colin Ward skated over to him on the first night of their first away trip that season, and they were beating Basingstoke something like 7 after 12 minutes. And Colin Ward skated over to him and said, "Should we just pack it in now, if we had enough?" And, that season wasn't good. But Jason Ruff carried our team at times, and he had something like 94 points that season. Jason Ruff, yes, he's in the team. So I'll move on. Second on my team.
Just briefly on the Jason Ruff factor, because obviously we're going to have this. Jason Ruff's the only Belfast Giant that I have a picture of, and he's in the dining room. And I think we all know what picture that is.
It is, and I was actually on a train. I was on a train in South Africa, disused train on the beach in South Africa, listening to that game on like 52k dial-up. Basingstoke Bison, Donnybrook, everybody, gloves everywhere, murder picture, Jason Ruff, fabulous picture. I think I was just after it's kind of not suckered, but he had got Jason Bowen. Bosey had hurt his knee or something.
Bosey was down. Bosey's knee had gone.
And Hurley kept through it or something. And Jason Bowen, that was Jason Ruff. And Stay Down was the Jason Ruff that we all loved. He had that edge when he needed it.
Yeah.
He was an unbelievable goal scorer. He could physical presence. Probably you're talking about physical presence as coach. He was physical when he needed to be. He was nasty. He was nasty. He was scary when he needed to be. Would you have liked to go meet Jason Ruff up a dark alley? No, you would not. For me, we could go on about Jason Ruff all night.
So who else is on your line then, Davy?
Second, and this will be probably a bit of a surprise to coach, but I'm going quite contemporary. And a guy who played the last 2 seasons for the the previous 2 seasons, not the last season, and a guy who started slowly both seasons. But how can you leave Darcy Murphy out of a team when he scores 50 goals? The only Belfast Giant ever to score. There's not very many Belfast Giants. I would have to go through it. I'm not sure there's too many Belfast Giants got 40 goals in a season. He got 51, and the previous season had over 30. As I say, slow starter both seasons. The team started slowly both seasons, and he warmed up. Massive factor in us winning those championships over the last. All right, take last season out of it. I keep forgetting it's not last season. But Darcy Murphy, for me, came in, young guy, started slowly. Once he got going, he could find a net like no other player in the league could find a net. And clutch goals. I remember him scoring away. I think it was either Dundee or Fife, right towards the end of the championship season. We needed a goal with minutes on the clock. Darcy Murphy was the guy to get it on his stick on the power play. I think it was top corner. He could find the twine. He could find little gaps round blockers, round gloves, round pads that no other player, for me, in the 20 years the Giants could find. He was a pure Curtis Huppy, maybe going back, would be another pure sniper. But for me, Darcy Murphy snipes like nobody else sniped for the Belfast Giants. So for me, Ruff and Murphy, and making up my line, how you could leave Colin Shields out, I just don't think it's possible.
Shocker.
Call me a stalker, whatever you want.
No, shocker, I said, not a stalker.
Shocker. 627 games. He leads the club in games played, goals scored, assists, points, short-handed goals. For to play nearly 650 games for the club and be over a point a game, to lead your country for 20 years and be their top scorer, to do that, I know this belittles, and it shouldn't, to do that as a British talent, to somebody that went away and built his game from a kid, having a figure skater for a mum, teaching him how to skate on Saturday afternoons, to playing roller hockey just so he could be on his wheel, to going to Canada every summer to learn the game, and then coming back three times to the Belfast Giants, getting deals done, and getting that last deal done was very important. Make no doubt about it. Like, Sheds went to Sheffield, he went to Newcastle, he went to France, he went back to America because he felt he had unfinished business there. But he's a Belfast Giant, absolutely hard. Born in Glasgow, made in Belfast, has to be on the team.
Jason Ruff, Colin Shields, and Darcy Murphy are the line for Davy has for the Belfast Giants. Mr. Kitchen, who's your starting line for the Belfast Giants?
I've already said about Jason Ruff.
Yep.
There's nobody's
add your superlative, sir.
Absolutely. There's nobody's gonna ever take that away. He's been the best player ever to put a Belfast Giants jersey on to date. The guy was just incredible. I mean, you talk about the night with Darren Hurley pounding on my mate Big Bosey, but the night that sticks in my head is in the SSE Arena, or the Odyssey at that time, with the Scottish Eagles. Sean Byram, he made a bad hit on. I can't remember who it was he made a bad hit on. Do you know what? It might have even been Jason Bowen. But Big Ruffles just gone over, grabbing him and knocking that bag out of him. And then when he was laying on the ice and the referees didn't jump in, he grabbed him and lifted him up again and started punching him again. It was just, it's one of those things over the 19 and a half years that have stuck in my head as watching the Belfast Giants. And for me, Ruffles we're going to have some absolute genius to step on the ice moving forward to take that mantle over, because Ruffles could do it all. He was just the perfect hockey player that you ever wanted to play for your team. So
Can I come in just briefly and say that one of the standout comments that I remember you said about the Scottish Eagles, and one of the standout comments I remember about Jason Ruff from a fan perspective came from a guy called Jim Piper, with someone who was as Tambo. And back when he was an Scottish Eagles fan, when the Scottish Eagles were still around, and chatting to him in the pub afterwards, and we were talking about Jason Ruff, and he says, well, he just basically shook his head. What's wrong? He says, what a failure that guy is. I went, are you kidding me? He went, absolute failure. What are you talking about? He went, he should be lighting up the NHL. He should not be slumming it here with us.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah, and to be honest, that bit there for me, I mean, if you look back at the NHL, 20 years ago, 18 years ago, and the players that were playing in it then, for him not to be good enough, or they seem not to be good enough, you just see how high the level was at that stage over in the States and Canada. Big Neil come up with a Dustin Whitecott in there. To be honest, it's one of the names that I'd thought about putting down. He was, for only having one season, I would have really, really liked him to be here for another 2, 3, 4 seasons. He was top notch. And again, I haven't really looked at it as a right wing, a left wing, and a centerman. I've really just looked at it as 3 forwards. To put them on there. But again, we've been blessed. We've been blessed with so many talented players to put on the teal jersey, and I've been toying about since Davy put this on our head here, 3-4 days ago. And actually, in fairness, he did talk about it a long time ago, and I've been sitting running about in my head since that time, going, would I put the team? Looking around all the list of the stats that the wee man puts together for me for I see all those details for all the Giants games that I commentate on for Giants TV. Evan Chevery sits 4th in all time as a Belfast Giant point scorer. More than a point a game. George Awada, a player that doesn't really get many mentions and played over 370 odd games as a Giant, many of them captain, many of them as a trophy winning captain.
Says if I can just break in there. For me, we talked a wee bit earlier on about shirts hanging from the bridge end, and you've Colin Ward and stuff up there. It's a travesty for me.
I agree.
Colin Ward's there and George Awada isn't.
I agree. Fully agree.
I haven't had as much fun in a month than talking hockey with mates, and you know what? If we need to go down that line and put a protest forward to the Belfast Giants organisation about who should be next or who should be a player up on that screen, then let's do it. But George Awada, what a player he was! An absolute bulldog, and he would do anything for his team, and he was our captain. And then you look at the likes of Craig Peacock. Peaks as a kid coming in to play for the Belfast Giants, he's 2nd overall as a Belfast Giants scorer. 2nd. And you sit and think about it. If you ask 100 more Belfast Giants players to go through without a knowledge of stats that Davy has and put together, how many of them would have said Craig Peacock was 2nd as a Belfast Giants scorer? When I looked at the list, it's one of those ones that, it's one of those names that you sort of just, because he makes it easy for me, he highlights the players that are still in our team, he makes them yellow. So I just sort of look at them and go, right, okay, let's update their stats and do everything. But I'm going to have to agree with Davy on this. I can't see how anybody can overlook Colin Shields. Sheds is, he's a neighbour. Well, not a neighbour, he lives about a mile away, a mile and a half away. But, Colin Shields is a Belfast Giant, a British player. I've known him since he was 13, 14 years of age. And, to score that amount of goals and to be honest, if he hadn't went to France and hadn't been put the orange jersey on for quite a while, he'd had a lot more points as well. And I still think he could have offered something this past season, especially the way we had played, because it was very disappointing the way the season overall was ended and what have you. But Colin Shields, for me, has to be in that lineup alongside Jason Ruff. It's been so hard. You looking through over 200 names, and 140 of them as forwards, 130 of them as forwards. Sorry, Davey. And coming up with 3 is a mighty tough ask. A mighty tough ask. My third.
Hang on. Hang on 1 second. I want to jump back in there because you talked about Craig Peacock and stuff, and you give a few stats on Craig Peacock. And to back up my Colin Shields request, this is one for coach. Craig Peacock, 360 points for the Belfast Giants, 2nd place. 1st place, 644 points, almost 300 points more.
longevity.
Nearly 100 goals more. Nearly over 100 assists more. You cannot. I think
I looked at that, Davey. I think Shed's a double the amount of assists that Craig Peacock had from memory.
Sheds has 395 and Peacock has 193. So 200.
So there's more than double.
Yeah.
Sheds has to be in there. Again, I tend not to look at things as longevity, but Colin Shields in his prime, all day long, he's got to be in that team. And this is where it comes down. This is where it comes down to the. Go ahead, Neil.
I was going to say, you mentioned one player there that I agree with both of you and Davey there. I know Paddy was a huge fan as well, but he does often get overlooked. I'm not sure quite sure why, but George Awada, arguably for me, the single best penalty killer, right up there with Keith.
Well, we've said it many times.
We've said it many times. All the time.
Said it. Oh, I know.
I personally think he's better than Adam Keefe, and I rate Adam Keefe. Yeah. Adam Keefe would block a shot with his face for you. George Awada as a penalty killer, sensational.
Yeah, he's right up there with the very best. And I agree with you. I mean, whenever you look up and see some of the names that are hanging from the rafters there, you look at someone like Awada, and during difficult times as well for the club, weren't the most stable at the time, and a lot of kind of younger guys in there as well, and kind of what he brought to the table year in year out for the Belfast Giants was absolutely top drawer, and a good human being to go with it as well.
Well, who's your third?
A third, and this is the bit that again I was a wee bit like Neil. I sort of had a couple of players that have been roaming about in my head over the last 24, 48 hours since when you were putting this together. Theo Fleury was definitely one of them, without a shadow of a doubt. Watching back and even watching that, and I started watching hockey. It was in 1987 when he won the Stanley Cup. I remember going to Big Jacko's dad's house. He was the only one that ever had a satellite dish. It was huge. It was one that I think he actually stole it out of flipping NASA or something. It was massive. Had it sitting in his back garden. We used to go there after we played hockey at McDonald's and then I'd school the next morning, but I used to go back to Jacko's dad's house, BJ's house, and watch the game, and then go get a taxi home or get a lift home, and then go to school 3.5 hours later because the game was finishing at 4 a.m. or whatever it was. But Theo Fleury was one of those guys that I remember was particularly was stuck in my head even before the Ice Bowl sort of really started to kick off. But he's definitely come into my thoughts. But Darcy Murphy is another one that 50 goals in a season is in any league is absolutely incredible and unbelievable. And this league over the last 10, 12 years has got better and better and better. And even last season, the one that was cut short last month, you can see the different talent throughout the league. And not just talking about the Giants, but talking about the Steelers, the way they put their team together. Obviously, Cardiff and Nottingham, they're playing top players throughout the league. Darcy Murphy, for me, was absolutely incredible. And I'm going to pick a player from that year as a Belfast Giant. Didn't play as many games as he should have played, but he was right up there with being as skillful as technically side of things as well as ability side of things as it comes into it for me. But Patrick Dwyer was different class, absolutely different class. Patrick, again, he missed. We talk about the league going to the last day. We weren't even involved. We were sitting in a hotel in Belfast waiting for our award ceremony. He was there along with the rest of his teammates, and Coventry beat Cardiff. And for that, again, looking back at that season and how good we were and how consistent we were, there's a word we haven't used this year, but how consistent we were the season before last with Patrick Dwyer in that lineup. And if I'm right, Davey, I'm not 100% sure, but I think he missed 20 league games that year. If he had played many of those games, he would have been right up there. That league would have been over by the end of February. Patrick Dwyer, for me, was just different gravy. I think he's been one of the all-time best Giants we've ever came across. You talk about the league, when Theo was in the league, an elite league, and in all fairness, the quality of opposition wasn't anywhere near as good as it was the year before last. And that's the bit for me that's made the decision. That again, I honestly have been toying about with this for the last couple of days, and for me, that's what makes it different. I'm not saying that Patrick Dwyer was a better player than Theo Fleury, but in the elite league and those two different eras, and you put those two together, for me, Patrick Dwyer is that third player in that lineup.
So we have Ruff as a lock. We have 2 votes for Shields, so he's in. And then we have Fleury, Whitecotton, Darcy Murphy, and Patrick Dwyer. Now, I'm going to be really harsh here. Both Murphy and Dwyer both have part of the same team. And there needs to be a decision between, you can't have both. So, between the 3 of you, Darcy Murphy and Patrick Dwyer, one has to go. And I'll start with you, Mr. McGimpsey.
That's tough because I haven't picked Patrick Dwyer, so I have to stick to my my guns and go Darcy Murphy. I think if I was dependent on someone making me a goal, I would want Patrick Dwyer in my team. If I was dependent on someone sticking in the back of the net, I would want Darcy Murphy.
Stay with Darcy Murphy. Coach?
2 fantastic players. I actually had Patrick Dwyer and Darcy Murphy down here as very honourable mentions, along with the likes of Kevin Surratt. Corey Carlander was a player I obviously.
What a player! Yeah. He's the. I think look again. This is the bit that I was going to say. I've been pulling my hair. I was going to be obviously like Paddy, but my hair is a wee bit too long at the minute. Corey Carlander was. And again, I know we've got an awful lot of new fans. I mean, but by new fans, I mean guys that have only been with us 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and they don't even know who Corey Carlander is. What a player Corey Carlander was. I mean, the guy was different gravy, absolutely different gravy.
I mentioned earlier on there says about Dustin Whitecotton in the face-off circle. I mean, I can remember, like, I got to know Corey really well during his tenure in Belfast, and that guy just ate, slept, and drank face-offs. That's all he talked about half the time. And he used to get like, you could visibly annoyed whenever he didn't win face-offs. He saw that as his job, possession 9/10 of the law. And you know, again, you talk about skating ability, came up with big goals. Wasn't the biggest, wasn't a physical presence in any way, but what he provided that Belfast Giants team. I think he was here in the first season and then came back again in the 3rd season, maybe the last year of the ISL. But a fantastic hockey player.
You were talking about the honourable mentions there, and I agree with you. And as you lads were talking, I started just scribbling down names, right? And I'm going to give you my honourable mentions, and the list is long and distinguished. Brock McBride starts it. Sorry, Coach. Brock McBride, Rod Stevens, Jeff Swez, Blair Riley, Adam Keefe, Paxton Schulte, Patrick Bateman, Steve Thornton, Kevin Rial, Damon Rycroft, Curtis Huppy, Corey Carlander twice, George Awada, Darrell Lloyd, Dustin Johnner, Sean Behrens, Kevin Surratt, and Christopher Higgins.
Do you know what I'm shocked about there, Paddy? And maybe I just didn't hear it. But I am really, really shocked that you have not mentioned Steve Thornton.
I did mention him.
Oh, you did?
Fair.
Because I know he's your man. You know,
I'll come back and add a few to that list and take a few off it, Paddy. Pete Campbell came in here from Basingstoke. Nearly 2 points a game. Sits only second to Theo, 1 point per game. You said Brock McBride. Ed Courtney. My goodness, what a player Ed Courtney was. 187 points in 124 games. He had vision. He had Tony Hand's vision with a bit of size. I'd love to have seen Ed Courtney in a Belfast jersey 5 or 10 years. They're talking about Steelers' best all-time lines. Tony Hand, Ed Courtney, and Kenny Priestley. You remember back those days, those guys just were scoring probably, Says could probably tell you better, 200-300 points a season.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Doucette, Robbie Dowd, who came in here for a season and absolutely burnt it up. And that's, you've talked about Burns, Sylvester Conley, who came in, Sean Selzer was only here for a very short time, and the list is on. How does Tony Hann not get in anybody's team? He doesn't get in mine, but like what he did in a season. I talked to Coach earlier on there about Belfast Giants in general and how many times we've been the bridesmaid. Like we've punched well above our weight in terms, I know Coach loves this, in terms of budget. We've punched well above our weight in the 20 years that we've been around. Consistently won championships, consistently won cups, consistently won playoffs, but gone to playoff finals and been second in the league so many times. And you go down two guys that one season that I think they were paired with Bobby Robbins, Andrew Martin and Paul Dennison.
Oof. The dentist?
Says used the term blessed earlier on. You go down that list of players that have played for us, and we were blessed. What do you call the guy that came in short term before Theo?
Matt Reid.
Matt Reid came in for like 7 or 8 games.
Wow.
Absolutely brilliant. And there's a guy I follow on Facebook who came in during Stewie's season. He fishes. He wasn't any good at hockey, but he deserves a mention.
Mark Finney.
Mark Finney, you go down our list. It is long and it is distinguished, and it's had some unbelievable players. And
again, you talk about honourable mentions, and I mean, they're one of the ones that I don't think anybody's mentioned at the minute, and it's got to be right up there, is Brandon Benedict. I mean, if Benny hadn't get lost for a couple of years and in the Midlands.
He retired, I think, for
a number of years. And then he was found again. But how good. And sorry for over talking about there, Davey. But it's one of the guys that would probably don't want to talk about. Blair Riley.
No, for me, can't be in your team. For the same reason, Chris Higgins can't be in your team. Chris Higgins made a decision, albeit a hockey decision, albeit a good decision for him as a person, for his family, for his future, whatever. He decided, I love Higgy to absolute death. The Belfast Datsuk. He was. You talked about clutch earlier on, and I remember listening to Paul Lady not so long ago saying,
"You sitting in front of your seat now, Jimmy?
What's that?
Look as if you're sitting right forward in your seat."
I'm excited now. That's what Chris Higgins does to people. Gets them on the edge of their seat. Chris Higgins, for Paul Lady, and to come from someone like Paul Lady, the best third period player he ever coached. Higgy was clutch. And you talk about Blair Riley and the 2 seasons he's had. But for me, shopped himself about and has ended up in Cardiff. And he goes with, what he's done for us at the podcast. And as a guy, and I love him as a fella, etc. But he cannot be in your Belfast Giants all-time team when they make decisions like that. I want a wee bit of loyalty in my life. I know it's hockey and you don't get that. That's okay. I live with that. That's fine. Absolutely fine. They can't be in my team.
So I didn't say to put him in the team. I just said we haven't mentioned them.
I will mention them quickly.
And I don't know about some of you guys. I mean, this is going right back to the first season. And I remember going to the Donald Ice Bowl and watching him practice. He only played a handful of games. Shane Toporowski.
By the way,
I knew Coach is saying here. Go on, Coach.
Been around 19 odd years. Shane Toporowski, number one wife, without a shadow of a doubt. the best in the business.
I didn't bring it up for that point. She used to go and watch him practice at the Expo.
Stephanie Primo. I remember it 19 and a half years later. Talk about
Google it. 100%, mate. I didn't want to bring that part of it up. I know we're talking about hockey here, but that's the next. I know podcast. She was a smoke show. She was an absolute smoke show. But how good was Toporowski?
Unbelievable. But he never iced at the Odyssey, because I can remember distinctly the opening road. Obviously, he was stood on the bridge. I can distinctly remember that opening night, but obviously played on the road as we had to do in those first few months before the SSE opened. But I think you all make some fantastic points, and as you've all articulated, the amount of
but you need to eliminate one between Patrick Dwyer and Darcy Murphy.
I'd want to know who. So we've got Ruffles, yeah.
Ruff and Shields are on the line. We have one spot open
between Dwyer and who was the other one again?
So you've got between these two, we're eliminating one, and then we're going to look at the other two. So it's Murphy and Dwyer. We're eliminating one of those. Who are you picking?
I'm going to go with Patrick Dwyer. I thought he was. I eulogized on that guy on Twitter last year during the season. For me, he was one of the best players that I've seen. I wish we had picked him up a few years earlier in his career. I loved everything about him: his work rate, his tenacity, his point production. The word on the street was he was a fantastic teammate. He was a leader in that locker room. You know, I know that we bent over backwards to try and get him back again this year, as we did obviously with Darcy Murphy as well. Love watching Darcy Murphy play. A bit like earlier on, there's very little between this, but I think I'll probably just go with Patrick Dwyer on this one.
So in that respect, then I'm taking him up against Theo Fleury. This is for the final spot. It's going to be Patrick Dwyer against Theo Fleury. Two men experienced in the NHL, two men who have won championships with the Belfast Giants. And between the three of you, I want a vote as to which of these two men will join Jason Ruff and Colin Shields on your forward line for the Belfast Giants. And I'm going to start with...
Yeah, I'm going to throw...
White Cotton still not in there?
Well, coach had two, so I'm eliminating White Cotton on the basis that we brought Shields in. And we're going to go for Dwyer and Fleury.
For me, it's Patrick Dwyer, and again, it's based on the quality of the league that's been at the EIHL at that level. When you look at, again, look back at when Theo played, Davey talked about him there, and the stories from Killer, playing your 7-8-0 up, whatever it is, and he's still using one of Big Needles. Saying, foot on the throat and just keep on going. And that's the bit for me that makes a difference between a winner and a loser sometimes, because you've got guys that are just going, oh, well, you know what, 7-0. I'll just ease up here. I didn't know the word of easing up. I wouldn't have happened on my side of things. Just if somebody said to me, like, we're hammering this team here, don't hit them anymore. I'm hitting them. Simple. I just went through my granny to get it, to get out of a puck if it's on the other side there and she's wearing a different colour jersey. So for me, Patrick Dwyer, due to the reason that, and I'm not taking anything away from Theo Fleury and how good he was and how good he was for our team back then as well. But moving it forward, was it 14, 15 years? And the quality of the opposition that you're playing against, the speed of the opposition that you're playing against in the EIHL, for me, it's Patrick Dwyer.
Coach, I'm going to give Davey's going to have the casting vote because I know you're going to vote for Theo Fleury, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Theo. I will take on board the argument that where the league was whenever it was that Theo arrived. Was it 2005, 2006 season?
Yes.
The standard was not where it needed to be, and certainly nowhere near the level that it is now. But I will still harp back to the fact that you can only beat what's put in front of you in sport, and Theo Fleury was head and shoulders above anybody else that I saw that season. Davey, you'll have the stats to hand on this, but I'm right in saying it just over 2 points per game. Yeah. That's stellar at any level. Theo Fleury, yes, he arrived 2-3 stone overweight, but he would have transitioned into any team of the Belfast Giants at any stage. Yes, it might have, if he was to come on board now into this league, it would have taken him considerably longer to get in Nick. And that probably would have been to his overall point production detriment. But for me, like, you talk about edge of the seat stuff, Davey, you're right. Higgy, and by the way, you got it. Well, you didn't, but I listened to TSN Overdrive podcast on a day-by-day basis. Love downloading that with Brian Hayes, O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill and Jamie Noodles McLennan. And they actually brought up, I think Noodles McLennan had, I don't know, New Higgy or whatever, and they were talking about him being nicknamed the Belfast Datsuk. That was a couple of weeks ago, I meant to say to you. Anyway, I digress. Theo Fleury gets it for me. Arguably one of the best, if not right up there with Ruffles as the best players to ever pull on the Belfast Giants jersey.
So then, Mr. McGimpsey, it falls to you, this final position on the Belfast Giants roster. Is it going to be Patrick Dwyer, a man most recently to have lifted the Elite League title for the Belfast Giants, whose picture is in the tunnel as the men come out onto the ice this season? Or is it going to be his NHL counterpart, Theo Fleury, one of the most high-profile, a gold medal winner who played for the Belfast Giants and arguably one of the highest-rated players to have put on the shirt?
I'm just looking at their names, Paddy, here, and it's probably it's not particularly a hard decision for me. For me, it's Theo Fleury. He came in here 3 stone overweight, 20 points behind the standings, and led the standings coming in the season. He went into the locker room in the first night and he took the stats. Apparently he was really interested in him. Found whoever was somebody from the Nottingham Panthers was top of the league at the time. Can't remember who it was, but he asked, "Who's that? I've given him a 20-point start. Do you think I can catch him?" And they were looking at this guy walking around in his shorts, belly hanging out, 3 stone overweight, going, "Who is this guy?" And he went out and scored 7 points in his first night. And he came in and went, "I think I might catch him." And there's, as I say, listen to Killer 1-on-1. I'm not going to spoil it, but some of the stories are absolutely fantastic. He came, bit of a surprise. Who can forget the first night Theo Fleury came and played in the Belfast Giants? However many, 5,000 crammed in, noise, cacophony.
How many views has your video got now, Davy?
Oh, I don't know. Forgot about that.
Yeah, Dr. Love.
I was with the Des Mate Centre, Ice Loyal and all, and we have been very fortunate as a group of guys as we have got older, along with this team and been taken under the wing and stuff for the podcast and got to know these players. And that's what makes it a little bit more difficult, says as well. And probably for you, because you know these guys so much better than maybe you knew the guys back 15 or 20 years ago. I'm sure you knew them because you were playing with a few of them at nights and stuff. But like what Theo could do, you talk about being able to open a game, or if you really, really need a goal, or you really, really need an assist towards the end of a clutch game. Both of them, 45 games for Theo, 94 points, 57 games for Patrick Dwyer, 84 points. Both of them were points production machines. Theo, the only player ever to break the 2 points a game barrier. Stellar career in the NHL, won the Stanley Cup, came and played for the Belfast Giants, won the league. He wouldn't have been in my starting 3, but when I'm pushed to have him or Pat Dwyer, honourable mention, tip of the cap, as Joel would say, to Pat Dwyer. But for me, it's got to be Theo Fleury.
And therefore, your starting lineup for the Belfast Durrani in goal. Defensive partnership of Robbie Sandrock and Jim Vandermeer. And up front, Ruff, Shields, and Fleury. Now, gentlemen, before we finish up, it's quite a starting 6, and I have to say, it's very difficult to argue with any of them. And we've spent the last 2 hours nearly feeling the pain and choosing who we think should be the start, or you guys think should be the starting 6. Very quickly, and I'll start with you, Davy. Mm-hmm. Who's coaching this 6?
Oh, who's coaching this 6? Oh. Do you know what? We have been very fortunate. If you can just bear with me 1 wee second. No, I'll not get it up. We've been fortunate. Yeah! We have been fortunate with coaches. When you talk about, Dave Whistle at the start, we had our difficulties when the likes of Stewie came in. Even Tony Hand's season was difficult for him. We went through the transitional period. Paul Eadie won the championship. Doug Christensen before him. Paul Eadie. I think Eadie was pretty fortunate in terms of his teams never got injuries. He picked his starting 5s, if you like. His goaltender was in there, but he had his 2D and his 3 forwards, and he put them out, and those lines rolled all season long. He didn't get lucky, but he didn't have that much coaching to do, and he said that himself. This isn't me saying. He said that himself. He didn't have to do too much tinkering with that team It was that good. And you see what way it went on and won championships. Steve Thornton, great first time round. Unfortunate second time round. He came in at a trying time. Killer had just left. Club in a wee bit of turmoil, trying to settle the ship. He didn't really want to come back as a coach. Ended up being thrown in as a coach. So for that, Thorts did really well in the back end, and he won those trophies when we'd gone through that lean period and we needed silverware, and we won the likes of the Knockout Cup and we won a Challenge Cup. We went on and won a playoffs under him. Can't take those things away from him. Derek Walser didn't work out for him, but you look at what Adam Keefe has done. Adam Keefe doesn't get into our starting six, so he needs to be on my bench. What he's done as a rookie coach to win in his first season, to go on and win a championship plus a cup in the following season, a penalty shot away from winning the Continental Cup, and a post thickness away from winning the playoffs, from winning a Grand Slam in his second season as a coach. The heartbeat, for me, the captain. The captain of our last 20 years, of the captains we've had, Adam Keefe is my captain and he's my coach. And if I'm asking somebody to put out there to coach this team just for what he wears on his sleeve and wears on his heart, Adam Keefe's my coach.
Simon, are you agreeing with David?
110%. Absolutely. Kiefer's got to be in there. Again, we look at the names that Davy's mentioned there: Whistle, Doug Christensen, Paul Eadie, Steve Thornton, Ed Courtney, Tony Hunt, Derek Walser as well. You look at the names that are on there, and yes, some of the guys won trophies. Some of them were very close to winning trophies. Some of them probably didn't get as good a run at it as what they hoped to get. But when you talk about Adam coming in and his total buy-in and from day one, he fell in love with the city, fell in love with everything about the whole Belfast Giants side of things. Obviously, he's married now; he's a Belfast boy. For me, it's got to be Adam Keefe in there. And again, it's not just about sitting here kissing ass, and we all know that he is gonna listen in, because let's be honest, there's nothing else to do at the minute. But for Kiefer to go in there, it's got to be Adam Keefe without a shadow of doubt. 100% agree with Davy McGimpsey.
So is this a grand slam for Adam Keefe, coach?
Boys.
Stupidest question you've asked all night, Paddy.
You're asking the wrong man. You're asking the wrong man about Adam Keefe here. I mean, I've loved the guy from the second he walked in through the building near enough and arrived at Belfast International Airport. He epitomises everything that the Belfast Giants is all about, on and off the ice. And as Sis alluded to there, that work rate that you see over the last couple of years as Adam's taken on board the coaching role has been absolutely second to none. I know all of us kind of catch up with Thorts, either on group, whatever, whenever we bump into each other at games or individually when I chat to him on the phone or whatever. And Thorts eulogises about Adam's work rate, his transition from his on ice to his off ice role. Obviously leans on his brother, I'm sure, and various different people around hockey circles, but he has transitioned superbly well. This year just gone has been it will have been his most trying year as a coach. He will have learned a hell of a lot because of that adversity. He will right those wrongs moving into next season, albeit there's going to be complexities with that as well, with the ongoing crisis, and I'm sure in terms of recruitment and all that type of stuff. But Adam Keefe, for me, every day of the week and twice on a Sunday, for my head coach of the Belfast Giants, with an honourable mention, and I'm going really old school, but I love Dave Whistle. He was so old school. He was not technical. Killer, probably, I don't know if you talk to him on the one-on-one about, but some of the stories that he has on West were just absolutely unbelievable. But the players absolutely loved him. They bought into everything that he wanted them to do. He just was completely the players' coach. I think if you look at this team with a few old school guys in there, in Sandrock, JVD, Ruffles, Fleury, Sheds as well. Sheds maybe not an old school type hockey player, but you've got a few guys in there that kind of play a bit of rough and tumble as well, having a skill game. West would have enjoyed coaching this team, but I agree with Simon. I agree with Davey. Adam Keefe is my coach every single day of the week.
Paddy, if I can just, before you go, to throw a couple of numbers in. I love my numbers. Adam Keefe has now coached more games, unbelievably, for the Belfast Giants than any other coach in Giants history. And he's 1 game shy. He's robbed with the end of this because he would have broke it this season. He's 1 game short of winning the most games of any Belfast Giants coach. And he's the winningest coach. He's won more trophies than all the other coaches. How can you look past him?
Case closed.
I think on that. What's very interesting about this lineup, and including the coaching, is the span through the history of the Belfast Giants that we've got there. We've got Robbie Sandrock that stretches us all the way back to that 2000 and 2003 sort of era, and you've got you come all the way forward to Tyler Besker-Owani, and then you've got Vandermeer, Ruff, Shields, and Fleury that gets us all the way in between. So and then Adam Keefe, of course, a guy who in the last almost the guts of the last decade has been a fundamental part of the organization, never mind the team, never mind the coaching setup. Gentlemen, for the last couple of hours, it's been an absolute treat. I've really enjoyed it. A really good, really fun chat about our very own. Before we go, I'll run to you, Coach. It's how are you spending the lockdown?
It's been busy, actually, mate, to be honest with you. Whilst obviously there are a bit like the Belfast Giants, Man City is an events-based company, and whenever we don't have games, things are obviously very different. And we're used to, it's a big department that we have at City in terms of our sales department, but it's as I said, it's strange times that we're living in, but up here on the world, and just working away day by day, and it's still busy and trying to map out various different scenarios for whenever the Premier League does come back. So it's whilst it's been working from home and it's been very different, it's been weird kind of getting used to it. It's been kind of business as usual minus the actual events, which is what we kind of do on a week by week basis throughout the course of the Premier League season. So it's been different, but it hasn't been a massive adjustment, just mainly because it's still been so busy.
Coach living on Merseyside, who'd have thought? Says, how are you getting on?
At the world.
It's been a bit odd. Like, I mean, for the first time in 30 years, I've basically no daily job to go to. Whether that being a hockey side of things or of an employer, but I find it very difficult, to be honest. I'm glad I've got Jasmine living with me, so she's keeping me occupied, and I'm taking a few bits and pieces to a few people who are struggling, and just trying to get the days in. To be honest, it's you just don't know how lucky you are sometimes when I've been very lucky. I've had a job the whole time since leaving school, and just sort of trying to get the days in are very, very difficult. And again, I know I'm very lucky that I'm still got a wage coming in, and albeit furlough, and I'm just waiting. I'd see if somebody phones me and asks me to go do something. By the time the conversation's not even hung up yet, I've got the gear on, I've got it in the car, and I'm going to try and do it for them. My brother was diagnosed with the coronavirus 2 or 3 weeks ago. Now he's glad he's okay, he's doing all right. But I was back and forth, just dropping bits and pieces off to him, and just trying to, as I say, with Jazz, go for walks every day. And I've sent you a photograph of the beers that I've just drank, which is most I've drank in one night. Just obviously talking to my 3 mates as well. And I'm so glad that I invested in a hot tub before this thing kicked in, because I've spent most of my days in it. But it's again, there's an awful lot of people a lot worse off than what I am, and everybody's staying safe and trying to get this over and done with, and not listen to Donald Trump, because the guy's just nuts.
It's an interesting watch every evening. David, how are you, mate?
I'm okay, Paddy. It's a kind of tough spot for everybody. I'm like a lot of mums or dads at the minute, doing a bit of the homeschooling. Stunned at some.
Oh my God! Don't talk about homeschooling. 15-year-old. Sorry for jumping in, Dave. I have a 15-year-old, and Jasmine. Neil's got this coming up in the next year, so going through GCSEs, and she's in fairness to her, she's worked so hard over the last a couple of years and getting to the stage now where she's starting in her 4th year or year 11, whatever it is, and try and get her ready for GCSE's exams is so tough. And now they're saying that they're just going to ultimately guess what the result the student should have. And that's the bit that's sort of frustrating me. And I get that it's a difficult decision for the teachers. I absolutely understand that. But I just hope it doesn't come back to bite me Jazz on the ass at some stage. But it's a really, really difficult position to be in. But homeschooling, God help. I know if you look at what's happening in another 10 or 15 years with our government and everything's happening then, you'll understand that we're going to get the blame of it for homeschooling.
I'm glad to see that Sis took over from me of interrupting Davy as soon as he just opened his mouth in the podcast.
Sorry, Davy. Sorry, mate.
Sorry, Paddy. As I was saying.
I'm only joking.
It's a tough spot for everybody, I guess. I'm a bit like Sis. We're trying to do as much as we can around East Belfast with the lodge and stuff. We're delivering parcels to the widows and pensioners and isolated and vulnerable people as best we can. And as I say, doing the homeschooling. Didn't know that 9-year-olds did Greek mythology, but I learned a wee bit this week about Socrates and Plato and Aristotle that I didn't know.
He was a brilliant player. Google 1982 World Cup, different really.
Brazil, but apparently it's a different Socrates. But Google's your friend. That's the thing I've learned over the last couple of weeks. If you're in doubt, ask Siri. And by the way, I did ask Siri earlier on, and she said Calvin Elfring.
And on that note, gentlemen, it's been an absolute delight. Thank you very much for your time, and thanks to everybody who's watching on this. It is a difficult time for everybody. It's there is going to be an end point to all of this, and until that point, we are just going to have to keep on getting through. We hope that what we've produced in the last couple of hours has helped you through. And if you've got any your own opinions on this, why don't you tweet us at Avftb on Twitter and give us your opinion on how you think should be the starting 6 for the Belfast Giants. And gentlemen, thanks for your time. And wherever you are this week, we hope you're well. We hope you're safe. And we'll catch you next time on A View from the Bridge.
Thanks for the invite, Davy.
Problem, buddy.